All right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So, a couple of quick housekeeping item things before we dive into the video proper. First thing being, I was going to do initially a live, not reaction, but a review for this chapter. But after reading it, honestly, it was so underwhelming, I decided I'll just skip it, not bother with it, and try to do a succinct review as possible for this one. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm going to try to do my best to keep this review as short and sweet as possible because there's really not much to say that I haven't said before, anything new to add. Like, not a lot really happened in this chapter. So I'll run through it pretty quick with my thoughts and stuff on it overall. I'll also try to do a quick channel update video today as well, because I know not everyone watches, all my content and might not know what's going on. So I'll do a quick channel update just so that everyone is kind of aware of what's going on, when to expect stuff to coming back, all that kind of good stuff. Uh, and the final little thing, can't think of anything else. Next week, I will try to get back to doing live reaction reviews for the chapters again, just because I don't think the monthly format really works as well when trying to keep current with the conversation, like week to week. In the fandom, I feel like letting it slide past until 1 month doesn't really do a lot because by then my thoughts might get stale depending on how events progress, things like that. So I'll try to get back to doing the weekly reaction review starting next week. Uh, we'll see if I can keep up the succinct format for those. Or what I might do actually starting next week is I might do a live reaction to the chapter and then do a separate review video because I think that's what some people are asking for, separate live reactions and reviews, so that anyone that wants either one or the other can get that. So I might start experimenting with that next week. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, like I said, I'll say quick updates, try to get through my thoughts on this succinctly. So chapter 1009, we've got a color spread, and it's fine. Straw Hat's playing in the snow with Tama and the Komachio, the weird lion dog thing. Entertaining, not my favorite color spread. It's pretty enough. Not much more to say on it. I have inspired by reader request Otama and Komachio putting Amigasa woven hats on Jizo statues of the Straw Hat crew on a rainy day by Honey Liquor. It's good enough. So, chapter 1009, Naraku, which I looked up quickly. I think that's the Buddhist hell. I think that's what it's referring to. Let me just quickly look that up. God, all I get is Inuyasha stuff apparently. Yeah, so it's one of the underworlds of Buddhism. It's a reference to one of Kaido's attacks and the whole concept they used last year of, oh, we're in hell now, blah, 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 whatever. God, like, this is the parts of, like, the story that annoy me the most. Because I touched on this last week, and, like, Oda has some real cojones to follow this up with another chapter, doing another fake out with Orochi. Like, I don't buy for a second that Orochi is dead. Again, like, and look at this way. I don't buy that Orochi is dead in this chapter, like everything that went on, even though, everyone is kind of speculating, betting on the fact that once he loses, what was it? He had 8 heads. Once he loses all 8 of his heads, that was it. Like, he's done for. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't know if it's going to be a situation of, like, the cat having 9 lives where he just has, like, 9 chances where he can get killed and resurrect before he, finally dies for good, or what's going on with that. But apart from, the panel scene of the scabbard slicing off being, really cool and artistic and stylistic and all that, there's no real emotional catharsis to Orochi being taken down so quickly by the scabbards. Like, there's no, like, I don't really feel anything, seeing him kind of get his comeuppance. And I think part of the reason for that is like the scabbards kind of being like, oh, Kinemon giving the line of like, oh, we don't have time to waste on you. Your judgment will be served to you in hell. It doesn't really work for me specifically in Wano because thus far, like Orochi really has been, despite not being, you know, a powerful figure, like despite not being a physical threat, Orochi has been kind of the mastermind of a lot of the cruelties that have, been the core aspects of Wano. Like a lot of Oden's misfortunes were directly because of Orochi's, desire for revenge and his plotting and scheming with Higurashi and like the whole getting revenge for the Kurozumi clan. So the Scabbards kind of being like hyper focused on Kaido being like the threat that they have to take out, and like, oh, we have to take out Kaido to avenge Oden. It doesn't really follow through logically for me, given that Kaido's kind of Orochi's big dumb club that he's kind of using to get his way. Like, yeah, Kaido was the one. Kaido and his like, yeah, without Kaido and his forces, Orochi wouldn't have been able to do what he did. And yeah, Kaido was there, when Oden was boiled and all that nonsense, and he's the one that wanted the weapons factory. So I'm not saying he's completely blameless for everything that's going on, but I don't know, like, it feels like the Scabbard just kind of glossing over Orochi's just meant more, is more so meant to kind of play on Orochi's insecurities about, not being powerful and being a mockery and everything else, and it doesn't feel like it's a plot point that's come together cohesively. And like the other part of that aspect of that, the reason it also doesn't work is like, again, Kaido hasn't really gotten much development throughout this arc thus far. Like, yeah, he's been kind of like the looming kind of like evil figure hiding in the shadows in the background throughout this arc, but we don't really know much about his motivations, his backstories, like what drives him, what compels him. Like, we don't really know anything about that 100 chapters into Wano. Like, everyone's kind of speculated based on like, oh, his whole desire to die, like why hasn't he died? People have done a lot of speculating on why he hasn't killed himself, like throwing himself into the ocean and drowning or this and that. Like, there's been a lot of speculation but no real concrete answers yet, which is why I think like the Scabbard's desire to take him out kind of just feels underwhelming. But again, I've talked about it before about how Oda didn't really do a lot to kind of develop the Scabbard's relationship with Oden, the backstory. So this is again it kind of coming back to bite Oda in the ass. And again, I'm kind of reiterating that it would have been really nice if Oda had just bothered to spend a little bit longer just fleshing it out, given like how many times he's going back to that emotional well to try and like, dredge up some more water, but just doesn't work. And it's kind of, something you can't really go back and fix. So it is what it is. It's going to be underwhelming going forward. There's not really too much Oda can do to change that. Hopefully we'll get to Kaido backstory like soonish, but I honestly don't know because Oda's just really, really badly stalling and pacing this arc so far. Which brings us up to the roof stuff. So I didn't really get too deep into this. I'm not going to touch too deeply on it now as well because it'll be too much of a digression. But a couple of chapters ago, I want to mention how I didn't really care for the dynamics between, the three supernova captains. Just because it didn't feel like Oda really did a lot to kind of establish the interpersonal dynamics and the conflicts between their characters. This chapter does a little bit more to kind of fix that. Like, seeing them do the teamwork together did a little bit more to make it feel cohesive. Kind of see the interplay between them and like their different fighting styles and attitudes and personalities and everything. So that was kind of like the one highlight, one of the few highlights of this chapter. I still think he could have done more to develop it before this point, but again, Oda seems to be rushing it, so who knows what's going on in his head. Uh, that said, the one potentially intriguing thing, I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops, but I'm not sure fully because again, Oda hasn't done kind of laid the groundwork for it to be a fully realized or developed moment. Before we get to that, again, small digression because I mentioned last week's chapter that we're probably going to see Onigashima get destroyed or the conflict's not going to end here. Like, I don't see it's the climax. This chapter is kind of lending more credence to my idea for that, especially we're seeing like Big Mom kind of doing these huge, combined attacks with rubble, like parts of the island being destroyed and tossed off. Again, lending credence to my idea that the Onigashima is either going to get destroyed or collapse just because of the fire, the battle on top, the damage below between, when Ulti was chasing the Straw Hats and everything. So we'll see if that actually does come to pass or not. I just thought I'd mention it here for posterity. Which brings me to the interesting thing I was talking about, which is Zoro. So those of you that know me, know my theories, have followed along through the videos on Twitter, everything else, know I was hoping, expecting Zoro to get some kind of development, some kind of arc on Wano, and he hasn't really gotten one. Which is kind of a disappointment given that, a lot of fans expected Wano to kind of be Zoro's arc, and he hasn't really done much on it, hasn't been really present or hasn't been a focal point in this arc. I won't get into like theory speculations on why, but one of the things I was kind of hoping to see him go through as a thing of development was potentially, problem with this is my theories was like so intensive. I'm trying to figure out how to like TLDR it as quickly as I can. Basically, the TLDR for my theory was that I kept mentioning how throughout various arcs, Oda kept mentioning how Zoro was able to sense the spirit in his swords, and I was wondering if that would ever come back or tie into the whole cursed swords idea. Again, something that Oda kind of touched on, didn't really develop throughout Wano. And at this point, it seems like, it's too little too late, and it seems like because of how much he's rushed it, it's not going to yield something he's going to be touching on. It's going to be one of those plot points potentially abandons. But one of the tangential ideas I had related to that was back with the Mr. One fight. I mentioned how maybe, for Zoro to develop his Haki to a more advanced state like Luffy is, for the breadth of all things. The idea when we back saw with Mr. One, where he's like, I can sense the breath in these rocks and the leaves, Master Swordsman, sword cuts whatever he wants to cut, all that stuff. We haven't really seen him use that advanced kind of Haki yet. And my speculation was a good way to kind of get that development with him would be to try and get him to finally sense the personality of the one sword that he has never commented on, because he's commented on the personalities of the Kitetsu, being like a stubborn child that does what it wants. Same with Ryuma's sword, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me right now. Shusui, same thing on that. He's commented on what Shusui feels like, and how he has to work to conquer it basically. But I mentioned how the Watto's the one sword that he hasn't really ever commented on the personality around, and I did some speculation on whether that was because he thinks of it as Koina's sword, and he hasn't come to terms with their death and everything yet. Reason I bring this all up is after Zoro kind of takes this Big Mom's and Kaido's attack head on, and kid-in-law was a kid-in-law asking oh, Zoro, you're still alive, and the damage he's taking. That made me wonder if we're going to finally get a Mr. One moment, a moment akin to what happened in the fight with Mr. One again during Wano, where Zoro's going to finally, finally having faced a challenge against some powerful opponents, if he's going to be at death's door again. And if at that point, being so close to death, if his senses will be heightened enough that he'll be able to achieve the same state he was in during the Mr. One fight, where he's able to sense the breadth of the different fighters, the breadth of the rocks, the swords, kind of all that stuff. I might do like a breakdown video of that or analysis of that if we get confirmation in a couple of chapters. I don't want to get too deep into it right now and waste time doing that if it's going to be like nothing ever comes of it. So I'll save that for a future video at some point. But again, for posterity, I thought I'd kind of mention the possibility of it. But like I mentioned, because Oda hasn't really laid the groundwork for a lot of it, I don't think we're gonna get the optimal development or the optimal use out of that particular kind of plot line or story point that we could have gotten. But I mean, it could at least salvage some of Zoro's characterization and give him a little bit more depth that's been kind of wanting since the time skip. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. I should also mention, I guess, I think a lot of fans are just kind of expecting that we're going to see his Asura form again, like the 9-formed Demon Illusion Sword attack. We'll see an upgraded version of that at some point. Also possible, but like I said, we'll see. Kaido, again, thoroughly kind of been underwhelming so far. Like, even in his hybrid form, like, much really hasn't changed to kind of make me think the scales are being tipped one way or another despite all the build-up. Like, yeah, he's getting a few good hits in on Luffy, and Luffy's kind of like also doing the same, dodging around, getting a few good hits on him, but again, it's not as compelling as some of the best fights in the series, like Luffy versus Crocodile, Luffy versus Lucci. It's still not reaching that height yet, so I'm waiting to see if there is going to be something that'll tip it one way or the other. That's a wait and see kind of thing at this point. Like I mentioned earlier, it's nice to see the Supernovas kind of working together, doing tag team attacks to take down the Emperors. I did not well, I guess we haven't got like complete confirmation yet, so there's still a possibility that Oda could be like, oh no, whatever, Big Mom gets saved by, her kids because they finally sailed their ship up the waterfall and they got to Onigashima. Like, she could be saved by luck, happenstance, whatever. But I know, like, my last chapter review, I mentioned that Big Mom is not going to get taken down here. She's going to get nerfed and either thrown off the island into the ocean and she'll float back down to her kids, or that, she'll bonk her head and turn into Olin again. I didn't expect that to literally happen the next chapter, seeing her get nerfed and thrown off. But whatever, I guess it had to happen at some point, or I guess earlier rather than later makes it better. Again, it's kind of annoying that Oda's trying to play like coy with having it as a cliffhanger to be like, oh, what's gonna happen to Big Mom? Like, oh, is she gonna get saved? Like, what's gonna happen to her? Like, guarantee she's not going down this arc. So all this, song and dance, this drama, ultimately it means nothing to me. Like, all right, yeah, I knew it was coming. I don't think anyone that really expected Big Mom and Kaido to both be taken out are probably going to be a little bit disappointed. But again, depends on how it ends up happening. I know some people are speculating that they might already be over Wano proper by this point, so Big Mom might not land in the ocean. She might just go plummeting into, what was it, one of the flower capital, like into the land there. So we'll see. I'm still betting on either one of my theories coming through, either Olin coming back or Big Mom thrown into the ocean. One way or another, I don't think she's going to be in this battle for too much longer. She's going to be a force to be reckoned with for too much longer. Again, I'm not going to do a huge kind of breakdown analysis of the disappointment I'm feeling at how she's been treated throughout the series. Like, that's, again, enough content there for another video. But yeah, Big Mom honestly does not get the treatment she deserves from Oda, and it is kind of disappointing. Not surprising, not unexpected, but disappointing. Yeah, but we'll see. So there's no break next chapter. We'll see if anything actually happens with this. Like I said, I will do a live reaction next week. I'll do a stream for that. and then I'll probably just record a review once I sit with thoughts a little while, and then I'll put out a separate review video to try and make it easier. And from the looks of it, I did manage to make this video succinct. So hopefully my thoughts were clear enough, and hopefully I got across all the points I wanted to make, and hopefully like everything I said made sense with regards to the criticisms I had. If not, if there's anything that was unclear or I rambled on about, just let me know in the comments below. Or if you want to hit me up on Twitter, talk about it there, that's also fine. But yeah, honestly, like, I'm hoping, because I know it's like become a meme at this point of like, haha, there's like, other YouTubers that also did the raid will fail, and there's people like making fun of that. And I know there's a lot of people saying, yeah, the chances of a raid, like the Straw Hats losing at this point, are very, very slim. But I do think there has to be at least one moment where it's like, things look bleak before the kind of like the resurgence happens again. So we'll see if Oda's actually going to commit to that, or if because of, again, like because of his timeline, his pacing, his health problems, if he's just decided like, I just don't have time, I'm going to rush through it, and he's just going to kind of, and the series will just be a casualty of that. But we'll see. Yeah. Apart from that, thoroughly underwhelming. Hopefully, it picks up soon. As always, if you like my content, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I know I've lost a few subscribers since I've gone MIA and been on hiatus for the channel. So, anyone that wants to come back, that would be greatly appreciated. Like I said, I'll have a channel update video hopefully out sometime later this afternoon or tonight, depending on how the rest of my day goes. I'm also gonna do some catch-up videos for Kaiju number 8 and Spy Family. I don't know if I actually mentioned this on video or not, but yeah, initially was planning on dropping the series from the channel just because they don't tend to get the views or engagement that a lot of my other content does. But on the other hand, these are, two of this only series in Jump I really like and enjoy reacting to. And I know I have a couple of friends who really like these videos and like seeing my reactions and content to that. So for them and for me, I'm just going to continue doing these videos because they are very low effort. Doesn't take me too long. Like, I think the videos, when I react to them properly, end up being 10 to 15 minutes at the most. I'll try not to keep letting them pile up because I think both of them, no, Spy Family's bi-monthly, but I think Kaiju comes out weekly. But I'll try to do a better job of kind of maintaining the balance so I don't let too many chapters pile up before I do a reaction review video. That said, I'm still kind of on semi-hiatus right now. I'm not going to be full-blown back into content until at least May. But like I said, this is kind of a good distraction and break for me from, just doing work all the time. So I'll try to do content whenever I can, depending on energy levels and everything like that. I really do appreciate everyone's kind of understanding and patience with me through all of this. I really do appreciate you all. And until next time, this is Ash. I will talk to you all later.